Let's demystify depression. So, my name is Rachel Kaplan. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been in practice for almost 2 decades. And for most people, when they use the word depression, they think of sadness. But the truth is, my experience and that of working for years with hundreds of people is that depression is usually best used to describe a layer of numbness and disconnection. So when someone's actively sad, like feeling it, crying, grieving, it's a very alive process. Depression, on the other hand, is a state of deadness, of numbness. And it's usually the best we can come up with when we're in that phase, right? We are usually so afraid of pain, whether it be grief or anxiety, fear, shame, that we'd rather just kind of stay just above the surface of our feelings. But what happens, and you may know this from your own experience, is slowly joy and any kind of access to any feeling will leave your system. And before you know it, you just feel like a dead zombie and probably doing a lot of scrolling or watching or eating or medicating with drugs and alcohol. So I want to just give you a few quick tips for how to understand depression and how to look at what I would say the alternative is, which is aliveness. And then I'm also letting you know that I'm doing a big deep dive, kind of thorough 3-hour workshop on it coming up, and it will be available as an evergreen workshop, even if you can't be there live. So here are a few tips for you. The first is that if you are wondering if you're depressed, there are two really helpful places to look. One is to look at if you have an increase in numbing behaviors and to really track what they are. So if you're doing more binge eating, more drinking, more Netflixing, more internet dating, to track that change and get curious what that's a reflection of. And the other is that you might be noticing less joy, less fulfillment in things that would generally bring you happiness. So it might mean that you do the same things, but you don't feel the same feelings. Those would both be clues that something's going on. Now, before we try to change the thing that's going on or change any of those habits that might be medicating what's going on, this next step is it's really important to look at the underlying need that those distractive numbing behaviors and maybe the depression in general is serving. Believe it or not, we only go through phases like that when we don't feel capable of tolerating what's actually going on in us. Now, whether or not you're capable of tolerating it, TBD. Most people are capable of tolerating more than they know, and there is a real lack of genuine skill on how to digest or metabolize or process or move painful feelings through the body. Hence why I'm dedicating my entire life to that through the feelings movement, through the Healing Feeling Shit Show here, Instagram, in my book that's coming out in October of 2024. So you are probably able to deal with it more than you think you are. And yeah, you probably need some tips on how to deal with it. But the first thing that I really want to slow down with you about is that if you skip the stage of honoring your emotional coping strategy, you won't actually be able to find a more adaptive coping strategy. So what do? What does this look like in practice? It would look like asking yourself, what are you getting out of the thing? And of course, you're getting numbness and distraction, but what else? Are you getting a hit of validation? Are you getting a fantasy world to live in? So when you look at what is the positive thing I'm trying to get here, it can give you a flavor of the type of wound that might be underneath. So, if you're getting validation, let's say through social media or through dating matches, is that a sign that you're feeling disconnected and lonely? And if it's a sign that you're feeling disconnected and lonely, those are really valid feelings. Those are really valid challenges to face. And so you, of course, are doing your best job to find connection and validation through these means that you are willing to. So but are they really working? And that's where you get to start to strategize about if you're lonely, if you're disconnected, are there better ways to find connection, and to look at, is there, a reason that you're not putting yourself in those better ways? Is it like that you're feeling insecure about yourself, and so you don't want to go out into the world, or you don't want to call your friends back? Are you feeling ashamed that you're in a hard place right now, and so you're in a spiral? So once you can see, like, okay, I want to feel connected and not make that wrong. Social media is giving me a way to feel connected. Um, it's also making me feel empty inside. So what would I need to do? What step do I need to take so that I'd be willing to pick up the phone and call someone? Or so I'd be willing to put myself into like a meetup group and try to make friends, And then that's what you can focus on. What do I need to do to find a more adaptive way to meet the underlying challenge or need? Okay. And you can do that with anything, but you really want to start by honoring that that is your best strategy and attempt to get blank. And then you can look at what's the better way. And then I'll just give you a quick tip, which is that basically, as much as we think our feelings of pain are going to kill us, and I happen to know that very clearly in this moment, I'm going through a really hard moment, and it's really compelling to be like, oh my God, this is the worst. The truth is that staying with our pain, and I know you might not know how, but I am committed to helping you learn how, is actually the quickest way through and the most effective way back to aliveness and joy. Because a stagnant depression where we're not willing to be with our pain can last kind of infinitely. But when's the last time you cried for more than a couple minutes, right? It's like our feelings are biological, they're more limited. They're more like something that once they're allowed, they'll come up, they'll go through a wave, and they'll crash or surrender. And so it's short-lived, and it actually changes our energetic, hormonal, biological state. That's kind of their purpose, is like feeling our feelings is a way to regulate and maintain emotional homeostasis in this crazy thing called human life. So a lot of what you're going to get in the workshop is very specific tips and tricks for how to deal with things like anger, sadness, grief, shame. But then we're going to do a lot of other kind of scaffolding around just the whole journey of moving from depression to aliveness. I hope you'll join me, and all of the information is below in the comments, and you're welcome to DM me if you have questions, or email me, but I hope I'll see you there, and let's find a journey, find a way out of depression back to aliveness.